Hi.
Hi, it's so nice to meet you.
Oh, it's so nice to meet you. And after doing even more research on you, it's like really just so special. I've been in this business for 56 years, and over time, as you know, you see talent and creativity um, through the years, and you easily, at 78, I can easily identify genius versus other types of creative spirits. And I have this podcast that I've reinstated again. I've done podcasts for a while, and I've had a radio show too. I thought this is the time to really speak with people who are on that higher level and share through another designer's perspective what that higher level is. And you exemplify that. And I think in this life that we're in now, creativity is incredibly important. So, first of all, thank you for doing this. And second, just initial question that is, I'm sure, um, obvious to everyone. You are a fashion designer, but clearly design is everything about you. And so, where did that all come from? What was the first kind of realization that this is who you were going to be? You were going to have a creative life.
Well, there's a couple of instances. Um, when I first saw the David Bowie Diamond Dogs cover in in the sales bin at the Kmart in Bakersfield or something, because Porterville didn't even have a Kmart. Um, that was so it kind of disturbed me. It was funny because it made me feel horribly guilty and disturbed and threatened, and because I was a small town, very a very fragile small town sissy, and that just exposed me completely. And I but then I remember just thinking that combination of grotesque glamour
Yeah.
and um, beauty standards outside the norm just really did something to me. There was that, and then there was the Rocky Horror Picture Show. That whole thing about don't dream it, be it, and um, living a life devoted to a certain kind of aesthetic that was so outside the norm that was in Dr. Frankenfurter's castle. Then there was the party scene, and I just ached to be at that party. That was the party that I wanted
Right.
to be at, and which it was had nothing to do with the little town that I was living in. But then, years later, I'm in Paris and I'm doing these shows and I'm looking around and I'm going, oh my God,
I'm
I
at the
that
party.
party. I'm throwing it. I'm throwing the party.
Right.
Um,
How
anyway,
great.
it's such a pleasure to be here because I feel like you're probably one of those influences that formed me too. Because yeah, no, I was very when in the late 70s when I was a when I was becoming more aesthetically aware and when I was developing uh what would become my aesthetic, and I was looking around and I was absorbing information. I was of all things I in Porterville, I had a subscription to GQ magazine and
Oh my
Architectural Digest, and I'm in high school, right? And it was a and GQ magazine then. I don't remember who the art director was, but there was a lot of Bruce Weber photography. And there was Norma Kamali. There were Norma Kamali
God.
clothes, and it was Norma Kamali clothes illustrated by Antonio.
Yeah.
Um,
I know. GQ, believe it or not, and other men's magazines were where the most creative, besides Vogue and Bazaar, where the most creative kind of photography was taking place in the 70s, especially. And actually, Anna Wintour started her career in the US at one of these men's magazines doing the fashion. And she was my editor and would come to pick clothes and shoot them. So I, when you said GQ, I knew where you were going with that. And that was where people really looked at fashion. Nobody would believe it now, but it's so
yeah,
true.
yeah. GQ was radical
Yeah,
then.
no, it was great.
And
It,
those Bruce Weber layouts, editorials with
I
those
know,
models being so beautiful and smothered with layered clothes
right?
at hotels in the Adirondacks. And I remember very specifically one story that has always stayed with me. And it was a girl, and it was a girl and the different boyfriends that she had spending the night. And it was always the same layout. It was her bed that I think had mirrored screens around it. And she was
Probably.
there from some little, and there was always a new guy. There was one guy, like a muscle boy, blonde, and he had like all of these comic books strewn
Right.
all over the bed. There was another guy that maybe had like jewelry strewn all over the bed. Another, there was like these
It
different,
sounds right.
and but it was so, obviously it was promoting sexual liberation.
Yeah,
And um but there was a freedom, but also there was such a gloss, a very glamorous, cheerful
hmm,
gloss to it. It was very sexual, but there was something so cheerful about
yeah,
it. And but I mean, that reflects that period. There was like just such cheerfulness about drugs and sex that
everything. Yeah.
yeah. And it all seemed healthy and
Who knew? It
celebratory.
was. Yeah, it was really an incredible time, and also, as you probably have it incorporated in your soul, that creativity could be endless, could be any possibility. And that imprint from that time, I think, is incredibly valuable to anybody who experienced it in any way. I think there was that anything is possible, any creative idea, any area. Clearly, you are creative in so many areas and see no limit, obviously, to what your creativity can do. A lot of that I saw as the way I was going to look at life and the way I would see my creative spirit. But you, I think, especially in the present, what I love about what you do is you are so pure and so extraordinarily creative in your own way that you can't help but almost shock people with it. It's just so intense and beautiful and exciting that anybody who sees what you do has to have that feeling that you had in the 70s when the creativity was happening, I had, and that I still feel is a part of me. But I love to see more of the kinds of things you do. I just think it's so healthy now in the world we live in to understand that creativity can survive and flourish at any time, no matter what's happening in the world. And I really want to congratulate you for not for being talented, but for being so honest and just straightforward about it and fearless. It's a lesson to people in any walk of life that this can happen, that you can have a life like that.
But
And
it's not easy. And honesty, you can only be honest if you're independent. And that's why you can be
topic.
honest. That's why I can be honest.
That's the topic. That's
Yeah.
the topic. And one of the big reasons I wanted to speak with you is you've had your business since 1994, somewhere
Mhm.
in there. And you do everything basically. You run it, you're the business, you understand the concept of business and fashion and
Not so
creativity.
much. That's the super important thing. I have incredible partners who were starting out at the same time that I was,
Uh,
and they had to make it work as much as I had to make it work. They were distributors that had broken free from a distributor who who had promoted Anna Mueller-Meister and
uh-huh.
Olivia Teskin and Alexander McQueen. So this was a group. They belonged to they were an Italian group who were kind of those radical Italians who went to the most extreme shows and who loved fashion and who promoted only what they believed in. So these young people wanted to start their own business, and they found me, and they had a great relationship with the right buyers in the world. And you remember those buyers. There were Joan Bernstein from
Yeah,
Brown
yeah, yeah,
and Joyce from Hong Kong and
yeah.
Alex Azarian and Charles Gallet and um, uh, Sam Shelley Sams from Henry Bendel's,
Hmm.
people who would take a chance. So anyway, um, Elsa and Luca, the people who decided to start branch out on their own and start with somebody new, they found me. The three of us, um, we started this without really investment, and we just um, doing runway shows wasn't really part of our budget or plan. We were just selling clothes, and we found a manufacturer in Italy to manufacture the clothes, and they had the worldwide distribution. And that's how it started, and that's how it still is. They are my partners,
That's
and
great.
they, it's kind of like a very lucky marriage. They are more talented than I am in protecting our brand, in protecting what we do, in navigating um, navigating the relationships with the stores, between the stores and the manufacturer, to get the clothes there on time at a certain price.
An
That
art form. That's an
it
art form.
really is. And
Right.
I always say the inspiration, my part is like kind of 10%, and it's 90% execution.
Yeah,
Getting it out there
yeah.
and getting it done.
It's crazy. I know.
So, and when you're talking about my being a creative force, it only happened because I was protected long enough to learn how to do it. Now, a lot of those guys at fashion houses, they have a 3-year contract and they
Yeah,
have to do it in three
I
years.
know.
I didn't
I
do it in
know.
years. I did it like in 10.
I know. It took me 14 years before I actually could afford to buy an apartment. I mean, it was like not easy, but truth be told, in that situation, you are still aware of, can you afford fabric? Can you do these things? And running a business, a fashion business, is incredibly challenging because every season there's another thing, right? Not design thing, another industry thing, another way people do business, and
It is shifting constantly. Yeah.
constantly, and understanding that as a designer is critical, and you've done that. And like you said, it's not easy, but because you understand that, you are here today to talk about it, right? There are near misses, right? Where you feel like, I
Oh
don't know if
yeah.
I'm going to make this one. And then you do.
And luckily I have a very extravagant streak, but I have a very practical streak too. So those have stood me in good stead probably. I mean, there are being independent, there's limitations that are different from being with a conglomerate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I would rather have those limitations and have to answer
That's great.
to a committee.
Yeah. A
Um,
committee of design directors. I mean, that would be shoot me, right? How could
yeah,
you know?
I don't think I could. And it's also a different job, and I don't disapprove of it. It is a major talent to be able to do that. So it's a completely different
Different.
talent. And but then you think of somebody like Margella, who apparently, and it's not like I know that much about him, but apparently there was kind of a big design room. There were a lot of people, and somehow he was cultivating ideas and nurturing ideas out of this to create one cohesive story. I don't know how he did that. I
I
would
know.
never be able to do
I
that.
know.
That is a communication skill with people, and being able to lead a team like
Mm,
that. And it's a very beautiful thing.
yeah.
I wish I could do that more, but I can't.
Yeah, it's different. I remember being asked, somebody asked me if I could, I don't want to name the brand, but kind of quietly design direct the design team because they'd gone off and all kinds of craziness. And this person was a friend and convinced me. And I thought, okay, and it's an experience. 60 designers,
Yeah,
60.
yeah.
Excuse me, where? But with you, one of the beautiful things of having a brand that has continuity and evolves and sort of shows the dynamic creativity from a time and a designer that's consistent but growing and changing. The problem, I think, when there is a limited contract, like you said, you don't have a chance to take that, evolve, and really grow with it. But I think it confuses the consumer. And that's in the end, somewhere along the line, there has to be a connection to a brand
I
over a
don't know.
period of time.
I don't think the consumer cares anymore. I don't think
Really?
that I don't think you and we became faithful to designers that we felt a connection to. I think consumers now, and this is kind of an Instagram thing. I think because you and I, when we saw the news on TV, we saw the news, and that was basically
Right.
was one person. Now on the news, there's banners and there's all of this stuff happening, and
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
and this new generation has learned how to absorb all of that
Mm.
information all at the same time, which I don't have that skill. So this generation now, they have Instagram that is bombarding them with all of this desirable stuff. And now it is such a flea market, and that you can kind of choose here, pick here, pick here, pick here, and create your own style. So they say, but all of those styles look the same to me. It looks
Yeah.
like a jumble of,
It is.
and
Yeah.
but that's my eye, and I think
Mm.
this generation somewhere they recognize something differently than I do. Um,
But I think for you, the work you do, the fashion industry has a lot of definitions. There's the fashion industry that copies whatever the hot thing is, and they make tons of money and they get it out, and that's what they do. And that's what they do, right? And then there are designers who have brands who try to make that happen. And then there are brands that are more about an overwhelming kind of experience. a real experience. You are an experience.
I know.
And
I don't know who can do that anymore.
well,
It's
you are.
it's oh, I am, but I'm really lucky, and I was very protected, and I'm still very protected. I have a family around me that is protecting what I do, and we're all steering the ship together, but um it's a loyal, committed
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
Um, and who can do that? What designers have that? That's such a blessing.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think you're so right. And the fact that um, you and I share a creative experience in our lives and that we can be grateful for that is extraordinary. And I think what you do may be um, disappearing in time, the opportunity to do that. However, whatever happens in this world, you are a creative soul who will find a way, whether you have lots of money for fabric or a little bit money for fabric, or whether you have a piece of clay that you can make something, or a pillow and a piece of furniture, or some combination of pillows that you can create a new kind of experience for living, you will do it. So it it almost is a crisis time in where we were and where we're going. But I am confident that whatever the challenge is, it will ignite new ideas for you. I'm positive of it. And I think, yes, you're lucky and we're lucky to be having creative lives, but you will make whatever the world circumstances an inspiration for what you're going to do next. I'm
my
positive
original
of it.
my original game plan was I was going to be Charles James and live
Uh,
in glamorous squalor on
right.
Hollywood Boulevard, making beautiful things. That was my plan.
That was a good one. That was a very good one. That was fantastic. I was thinking when I was thinking about this and wanting to interview somebody like you, that I studied fashion for so many years. Obviously, you studied fashion too. If Charles James was, he was magic in his time too, and would still be, right. He would still have some kind of special energy. I think that having those people is really important, and you are that to people too. I
Yeah.
mean, there are that is that example may even be your purpose. I mean, what is your purpose in this lifetime?
To glamorize weirdness. I just wrote this intro for uh for somebody, and I was saying, my uh I was so I learned how to deal with the hostility of growing up, um being rejected because of my weirdness, but I swore that I was going to express cheerful perversity in as elegant way as possible to counterbalance that kind of bigotry. That was my purpose in life. My purpose in life was to be the David Bowie album cover for some kid in a small town, for me to say, you can live this whole other world and you don't have to follow all of those rules. And I wanted to be that example. Um, and the world can be such a narrow, judgmental, um, oppressive. The world can have such an oppressive side to it that I feel like I have to counterbalance it. I have to do my best to be the opposite of that, and because it's not, the world. There is darkness. There just is. There's
Mm.
lightness, darkness, and um, uh, it's the glory and the disappointment of human nature. It's just um, competition and selfishness. It's just part of life. It's just part of the way the world works. But I can provide alternatives to that to people. I can say these are the sometimes narrow and cruel standards of beauty that we live with today, but I can propose this that might be different and might be um, an alternative.
Yeah.
So
I, yeah.
that is strongly my purpose in life.
It's great. And it's incredible. First of all, you have so many great books. And I'm almost thinking as you're saying that, I think there's such a crisis, and it's become a mental health crisis for young adults, especially, who feel different, who have social media to deal with in their differences and their fears about being unique or interested in things that other people aren't. That
You
there's
know, young people today have a support that we never had. You on Instagram, you can find your tribe in a way that we couldn't. Don't you?
do you think everybody can find their tribe? That
I think on
do you
Instagram,
think so?
I think on Google, you can type in anything and find your tribe. Maybe I'm being glib. I'm being a little glib, but
I think there are edges of that, but I think somebody like you, for what you just said, that your purpose is, um, I think your story is really powerful, just in the way you told your early influences and how you're still creating those dreams you had at that time, and how being different really created your uniqueness and the power of that. A lot of people who are different are so afraid to be different, or if they are different, aren't really aware of the opportunity of being unique, and seeing more people who are unique, especially somebody like you. Your uniqueness is bold and profound and creative and beautiful, um, and global. And I think you have an incredible ability to be, sort of another light, not only as a creative person, but how this person took their uniqueness into a creative world. And it's a special kind of uniqueness. It's art. It's every aspect of design, not just fashion. I think understanding that it can be that broad and that, um, I mean, I don't think you see a limit to what you can do. Is there anything that you tell yourself you can't do? I can't imagine.
um, I can't no, I can't think of anything. I mean, I know I don't want to build a house because it'll just take too long. And I don't have the patience for it. Um,
And you have a practical side. So
yeah, and the great thing, part of being independent, obviously there are limitations that I wouldn't have if I worked with a much bigger organization. But there's an advantage to that because having limitations, um, if you just have everything at your disposal, it's hard to make choices. But if you have a certain, and my favorite part, and I don't mind the speed of fashion, I don't mind the cycle of shows and all of that. But I live under very different circumstances than somebody who works for a house that has to pump out
yeah,
all of that merchandise and stuff. So I'm coming from a very privileged position of being able to do what I want, but having limits is like this kind of delicious puzzle every season. It's like I've got this amount of resources, this amount of time. How do I use those elements and put them together in a convincing way?
Yeah.
And that's a great thing. And if it was limitless, it would. And if I didn't have deadlines, it can take like it could take me 3 years to come
Yeah.
up with a collection.
Right.
You know, and we were talking about I was talking to some friends about raising kids because a lot of people in my world are having babies
Mm.
now, which is great fun. But I was saying the world now. I mean, I see children being cared for, and their parents are responding so much to them. And I'm wondering, would my mom have tolerated that kind of behavior?
Yeah.
And and my mom was the most gentle person and the sweetest person in the world, but she could have a firm hand. My father, on the other hand, uh, he was a bully. He really bullied me, and it was very rough. But I was talking with my friends, and I'm saying, I don't know where I would be without fear and shame. Fear and shame and oppression.
I
They
know.
taught me, they made me, they filled me. I needed to react. They taught me responsibility. I have a strong sense of
Mhm.
responsibility, and like some kind of morality.
Mhm.
Um, and if I hadn't had that kind of oppression to fight
Yeah.
against, I would be like um, a really good natured,
Creative
serene.
person that we never heard of.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I'm thinking I need
Definitely. Yeah. And the survival skills, it's funny, this weekend I was having the same conversation with friends who have kids, and I wondered how much they do for their children, to the point where their life experience is so connected and limited to what their mother and father do for them. And will that, oh my God, look at that. I love that. Anyway, the new, uh having those limitations is inspiring for new creativity, right? I'm sure you've come up with ideas because you had limitations that you wouldn't have, like you said, if you had
Yeah, you
time.
may
And
do. You improvise.
yeah,
You and improvisation is one of the most creative
yeah.
experiences ever. So
And the most fun, right? It's more
yeah,
fun.
I mean, you need your imagination.
Yeah, yeah. And so what do you think? I mean, when I think of creativity, I think of it when you do something that you've never done before. There's a high, right? There's a high. It just exists. It's lifting. It does something. It's like a drug for um, the ultimate in a creative life. When do you when do you remember, if you do, when that first happened? Were you in school, or were you like,
Oh
when
yeah,
did?
I think I remember once I was allowed to uh, miss some kind of study period because I was allowed to paint some kind of backdrop for some school event or something
Uh-huh.
because I was good at that because I painted so well. I mean, it was like a gypsy van or something. It was
Mhm.
some kind of prop, but that I was allowed to skip school because my work was special enough to allow me that privilege. That was and
That's a,
um,
that's a big deal.
and I could sense admiration in fellow students. because of that. So that set me apart. Um, yeah, so that was my power. That became my power.
And how old were you? How old do you think you were?
Grade school, I don't know, 12, 11, around there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Well, I think your story about challenging having your own business and also freeing its freedom to the ultimate, free to be creative without a committee is I think the ultimate dream for every designer, every creative person.
Yeah.
I was looking at some people that I've interviewed in the past who are very genius and creative. And there was and this was somebody that I interviewed a long time ago, not in fashion, not in any of the worlds we're talking about. And it said artistic, creative pioneer and visionary leader. And I thought, oh, actually, that sounds like Rick. It's
Mhm.
it's actually it sounds like you because it's not saying fashion designer, etc. It's more of a state of mind and a personality. And so that's my that's how I see you as artistic, creative, pioneer, and visionary leader.
Well, coming from you, thank you.
Uh,
That's something.
well, you are something, and this has been just um, a great honor to be able to
Well,
speak with
allow me to say earlier on, I was talking about how I had made it my life's purpose to create an alternative for people who didn't fit into the standards of our accepted idea of beauty. And I didn't mean to sound so smug. I sounded very virtuous and smug there for a minute. And I'm looking back on it and thinking, I didn't mean it to be so like I thought I was some kind of messiah or something. Absolutely not. This is just my little moral my little moral sense of purpose to try and kind of be a safe place for another kind of
you.
aesthetic. So,
What kind of music do you like?
oh, everything. Um, I listen to a lot of opera. I listen to Shirley Horn. I listen to Julie London. And then I listen to the most violent techno I can find. And I listen to Gabber, like hardcore Gabber, Bowie, Iggy Pop. Um, yeah, it really runs the gamut.
And to,
Different music for different
yeah,
activities.
yeah. Music is really important, isn't it? It
It
really is.
really is. It's the strongest, most powerful, wonderful drug. It can just alter you um so easily.
Yeah.
It's so important. What do you listen to
Um, you know,
nowadays?
I love all kinds of music too, and I love to dance to anything. I just love I get taken over by music completely. So if there's a dance party anywhere, I like try to get into it. Invite me, please. I want to go. I love it. But you know, I met Etta James in the 90s.
Mm.
Just by chance, I was doing a show, and I rarely do shows. And I was doing a show, and I realized that I chose all Etta James
Uh,
because her career started in the 50s and, went very wide and broad. And it sounded similar, but never the same. And so I had chosen songs. I had no idea who the artists were. And the musical director said to me, "Do you realize every song you chose for this show is by Etta James?" I said, "Who's Etta James?" And he said, "Well, you should find out who." And then I called her agent and I said, from California. And I said, I would love to invite her. I've used every one of her songs. I love her music. It's her voice, everything about that bluesy sound. And so they said she has a concert, but she'll be in New York, and this little club, Irving Plaza. And she's inviting you. So I said, fantastic. And we became fast friends. And I absolutely was in awe of her incredible talent. And just as you know, she's influenced so many people. And so I have my soul in that kind of sound. It's like it's very deep and feeling and very much, but I love all kinds of music. I really do. I think music tells us so much about the time we're living in, the way we feel, our memories. People say that about clothes too, right?
I don't understand music now. There's there's like the gabber and stuff. It's fun, but there's nothing. It's but there's Lana Del Rey. Lana Del Rey, I think, is that's the most moving music that I've heard for a long time.
I
That I
think, yeah,
engaged with.
I think with what is going on in our world globally, um, that I think it has to start coming through with music. I think it's critical that we start to hear and feel the vibration of a song that changes how we feel, that gives us sort of a moment in this time, and not politically, because I don't, that's not that's not going to be helpful, but the music that transforms and energizes us and excites us, and that I feel is we're right on the verge of some real talent coming up with something wonderful. I'm an optimist, obviously, as you can see.
I'm not.
You're not. So I was going to say, you're a
I'm a
Scorpio? Is
Scorpio,
that
yeah.
right? I'm a Cancer. I'm very water signy, but I also, do you know what your rising and your moon are?
I'm
No,
not. I'm not very
at all.
versed in
But
astrology.
but I do think I do think that the feeling we have that music kind of inspires is everything. I mean, it's just, but people do feel that way about fashion too. They
Yeah,
feel that clothes can do that and create memories. I mean,
yeah.
do you, I remember thinking at one time, why aren't I finding a cure for cancer? What am I doing? Why is that quarter of an inch so important to me? What's wrong with me that that's so important? The detail, why is that so important? I could be curing cancer. And then there's this transformation, right? That you start to understand. When did you recognize that people
That I
were,
wouldn't cure cancer. I do think about that. Why? I think about male aggression, and I think, um, what was it? How did I have the nerve or audacity or arrogance to think that my creative expression it had such merit that I could demand other people pay attention to it? Like, where did I have that? Like, and it's not easy, and you have to like kind of pound on doors, and you have to really promote yourself. And I'm going, where did that come from? Where did that, and I think there's a certain amount of male aggression there that I'm a little ashamed of, but I'm also kind of proud of it. I mean, it worked, and I had, um, the world is a rough place, and when you talk about curing cancer or creating or worrying about the hemline of a garment, that is the difference between death and beauty. And we will never eradicate death. Death is it's a fact of life. And that's why we have to develop beauty. That's why we have to promote beauty.
Mhm.
Beauty is the opposite of death. And the celebration of it and the cultivation
Yeah,
of it is the opposite of death. And death we will never avoid.
yeah, that's
Um,
brilliant. That's
so um,
what kind
so
of workout?
that's why what we do has
Yeah,
value.
yes, I've learned through the years that that it is incredibly valuable, and now I'm very involved in longevity and understanding more about the the aging with power, so we can live healthier longer to fulfill our dreams and purpose. And I realized how important the decisions we make about what we put on our bodies every day to express how
It's
we feel
it's
is critical.
communication.
Yeah.
And communication is one of the main functions of life. That's what we're here to
Yeah.
do. Communicate
So,
with you.
so talking about longevity and lifestyle, you clearly are as fit. You probably have zero body fat. What do you do? Like,
I'm kind of lucky that I never I don't really gain a lot anyway, naturally, and I don't do cardio.
what do you
And
do?
I just work out with weights.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but I drink a lot of coffee and I smoke. So,
Fabulous. Hopefully not while you're doing weights.
no, but I work out with weights very regularly, and I don't challenge myself the way that I did when I was in my 30s and 40s. Then I wanted to build, I wanted to define, I wanted to build, and I took steroids for a while at a certain point, and I can't recommend it strong, like highly enough. Steroids were great for me. They got me to another level.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
I was working with a trainer. My body was very soft, and I had like kind of 13-year-old girl nipples and kind of already a love handle and kind of some very soft hips and thighs. And then I started working on, I took the steroids when working out with a trainer, like 5 days a week. And I probably only did steroids for 1 or 2 years. I don't even remember because that was, 40 years ago. But it bulked me up and I became kind of puffy and bulky. And but then when I stopped doing the steroids, the puffiness all burned off. And underneath, I had changed the scaffolding of my
Wow.
body.
Wow.
It's like there was the tits were hard, the everything like the shoulders got the I don't know, like the back and the shoulders kind of the change. I totally changed shape,
Mhm.
and so and ever since it's only been really about maintenance of that. Um, so it's not like I'm never really getting bigger. It's just to keep it all as together as I can.
I think obviously the human form is important in clothing and designing furniture and everything. And with your models and your shows, it's so clear how important that is. I love that. I really think I studied anatomy in art school, and it was so critical in the way I look at everything. And when I see your work and see the way you present clothes and the joy of the body and the beauty of the body and the way you create sculpture around the body and with it is really so special and beautiful um and so unique in the understanding of how the human form can look. It's just, I love where your mind goes with that. And
I
just
I
just
I
looking at you, I can see that that's part of your kind of who you
I
are.
do wish that I could be more inclusive size-wise. There was there was one season, I don't know, years ago, and I was looking around my studio, and we were doing fittings on a model and everything. And I was looking at all the ladies in my studio, and the sewers and the pattern makers and stuff. And I was thinking, it's almost obscene that we're making these clothes on this tall, skinny girl, and all of these other, and like I'm making all of these women make these clothes that are very specifically fitting this girl's very slender, very unreachably tall frame. And I felt that's not cool. I gotta do something about that. And so that was the season where I thought I was going to get all of these step teams from the States to come and perform a step routines,
Right.
because they were strong, active bodies that were not the fashion model norm. And it worked because I committed to it completely. And well, I think it worked. If we look back on that show now, there are people that could say it was exploitative.
Exploitative. Whatever.
I
I
can
got it.
definitely in this era I could probably be really criticized for that show, but I mean the intentions were honest. But anyway, um, I felt like it worked. But then when I see runway shows where we see skinny model, skinny model, skinny model, skinny model, large model, skinny model, skinny model, skinny
Yeah.
model, it's just jarring and condescending, and it just doesn't feel right. And I don't know exactly um, how to address that
Yeah.
exactly. But it's
It's
on my heart, and I will.
yeah. No, it is clearly challenging. And I think, when I look at everything through a longevity lens now, like what are the things you can do for longevity, for body and mind, and to be productive for as long as you can. I don't want to preach, but I want to say, like, if you try these things, if you take care of yourself and you do what you can, anything, weightlifting is actually on the top of the longevity exercise, by the way. It is the exercise. I should be lifting my body weight, and I'm not lifting my body weight. But I think if more people understood that the accepted human silhouette for healthy people would be something that would probably be between the extremes and here. And I think it would probably look like your muscle tone, where somebody is taking care of themselves by lifting weights. And the ideal would be the ideal that would be equivalent to longevity. And until we recognize that health and well-being is the priority overall and the decision that people should make, we're going to have this confused notion of what the representation of a male and female or form of a human body should be. And I'm convinced that it is giving people the opportunity to live a long, fruitful life, body and mind. And I think the result is not here yet. We don't know how to identify that. You
But
identify it. You look like it.
yeah, but that was just a priority for me. And frankly, a lot of it was more based on vanity than health. Health was a factor, but it was more about vanity and control. I
Yeah.
think it was very much about control. Because part of expressing yourself creatively, it takes a lot of control. You have to control, you have to channel your energy into something that has an end result, because there are so many I always say, like, there's so many artists and creative people, but it's the ones that actually manage to
But
get it out there and
yeah,
done and
yeah,
executed. That's the hard part.
yeah.
Um,
The ones that work the work. I mean, it's about work and working the hardest, and but not in a way where it's tedious. But you love the work. You love the anxiety of it. You love the joy of it. Loving that work.
with the sense of purpose, I
Yeah.
think that is the most addictive part. But the downside of it is that you become a ruthless editor. Everything becomes about eliminating everything but the very best. And that elimination, there's something that can probably, that's not the healthiest thing in the world to be doing day after day after day.
Mm.
Um, because then you become impatient with imperfection. And that is not realistic. Um, and I do think about this, about, at the end of my life, it's kind of, you think about the stories of generals that have led huge armies, and then when they're retired, they don't know what to do with themselves. It's like, what are you going to do? Garden?
Mm.
After having
Right.
had that power and wielding that force. And it's kind of the same with me. I'm thinking I'm able to channel my um, creative urge and focus it in a very specific way, and having people respond. And that's kind of a conversation that I get to have like all the time.
Yeah.
And what do I do when I'm expressing and people are no longer responding? How is that going to feel? How is it going to feel when I don't have that conversation and it's silent, and I don't have anything to polish and refine endlessly? Um, and I kind of think of that, and I'm thinking the I think a garden. I mean, garden would be a
But
garden is the most wonderful thing in the world. A wonderful garden, and it's connecting with nature, but it's still about control.
yeah,
It's
it still is. But I think, I'm sure that there have been times in your life where what you were doing maybe wasn't getting the response, or you weren't satisfied with it anymore. And it's kind of the universe coming at you and making you feel insecure or unhappy or not satisfied with the level of what you're doing. And I think it provokes you to just get to a new place, to go to that next place where you're supposed to go. And somebody like you may have a garden, you may have two gardens, but I don't believe any sort of pushback on what you're doing is going to make you step away. It's only going to push you into a new zone and
I
take you to the next place, right?
I hope so, but things happen. I've seen designers that were so connected to the moment and connected to the world. I've seen them lose their way and start um, and 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 I'm not sure if they're aware of it, and it makes me nervous when
Mm.
and I haven't seen a lot of examples of that, but I've seen that kind of thing happen, and I don't know, it's just uh, like I said, I'm a pessimist, so
And I'm telling you, the universe is going to
lighten
just
up.
push you into, I'm sure you would not be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and
What
that
if I don't know? What if I don't even know?
okay. Well, first of all, we have to have a talk here about longevity. Look at how long you've been doing what you're doing,
Yeah,
and really doing lots of different things and showing the breadth of talent you have. And like I said before, I think the world can go upside down and you will figure out how to figure out the upside down version of the new thing. You just will.
I do have
You've
to say,
proven that, right?
during COVID, that was an upside down thing.
Yeah.
And I felt that we responded as uh, I felt that, how do I say this without sounding self-satisfied? I felt like we did the best we could under uncertain
Yeah.
circumstances, and I felt like um, I, I we bonded, our group bonded in such a great way. It was, um, we made the best out of it, and when I look back on it, I'm kind of proud of that period.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I agree. I thought a lot of people did not have that experience, and I think it made me better at what I do. I'm sure you feel a satisfaction of surviving something incredibly difficult.
and I felt like we came up with honorable answers for the
Hmm.
situation. Um, and the other great side of it was, I know a lot of people that I know, they had the chance to connect with people that they really cared about. Um, People that they didn't care about naturally just kind of fell aside, and we were able to focus on the people that we cared about, kind of have more time with them,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that was a blessing.
Yeah. It really it was a difficult time, and I think we learned a lot about our abilities during that period, and
Yeah, but then as
thankfully,
soon
yeah.
as COVID was over, all those big houses were just jetting all over the world,
Oh,
doing destination shows for
I know, I
people,
know.
celebrities. It was
Yeah.
shameless.
And it doesn't, and, there's a lot going on in the world. COVID as we knew it may be over, but we're definitely, being challenged, whether it's our abilities as human beings to do as much or to take on as much as we used to or were able to. I think we're all spoiled, and extravagance is almost frightening, and it can be scary.
I was very disapproving of that whole reaction after COVID, of all of the fashion groups just kind of just
Mm,
flexing all over the place. But on the other hand, I get it. I realized that they needed to reassure
mm,
shareholders and their clients and their customers. And also, there was a generation that had such a shock of fear. They needed to regain their joy of life again,
yeah,
and they needed to. And that threat had made them maybe appreciate the preciousness of joy even
yeah.
more. So I'm thinking, I'm just being a grumpy old dad disapproving of this. Good for them. Let them seize. A friend of mine just came back from Ukraine, and he said that he went to this daytime rave there because it had to be during the day because they had curfews. And he said he was just so inspired by the level of joy that
Mhm.
they were um, experiencing under that kind of threat. They were still finding a way to find joy, and he said he was very moved
Mm.
by that.
Yeah, I mean, realizing how precious friendships are and how precious life is, they are experiencing the highest level of human spirit. And we're maybe um, not appreciating that as much as we should. It's the extravagances are sometimes a big blur and disguise. what's really important. How do you get on with Gen Z? I would think they would love you, especially the structure of your company. They love me because I have my own business and I'm living my life, right? And I'm doing it my way. I can't believe that they're not like crazy about you and all over you. Do you
Who?
sense that Gen Z?
Gen Z.
Z.
I can't remember which one they are.
Well, they're the younger ones than millennials. They're under 30. They're in their teens to
Oh yeah.
30. And they are quite different from millennials, as you know. I'm sure you're a sort of God to them. You must be aware of that.
Well, I have to. I'm sure that they are um, people who want to be fashion students would love to be able to have their independent brand instead of having to face going into big house.
Corporate, yeah.
Sure, I'm sure that would be a very appealing end goal for a lot of young people. And there's not many examples out there.
Mm.
So I can assume that I'm kind of visible.
Yeah. Who is there? I mean, I don't really know. I try to think of American designers, and I mean, I've had my own business since the beginning. I never had partners, and I try to think of who else, who else is struggling like this? Who else has gone through that kind of struggle? Am I going to make it? Am I going to be in business? And then whew, I did it, and now I'm here. How many designers do you know? I mean, seriously,
Uh,
I don't know. I
yeah.
mean, I thought that you were independent. I thought that you were independent, but Paris always confused me. Is he? Is he really independent? I'm not sure. But I was so happy as I dug into I love doing podcasts because I have such a curiosity about people, and I love obviously doing research on you. And then I was like, yes, I'm so excited. He's his creative soul. It's his life. That's who he is. It's not a company. It's not a house. It's Rick Owens and obviously your team. And I am super grateful to my partners and teams in this business too. But who else is there? I don't know.
No, there have been examples in the past few years who surprisingly sold their companies, and I didn't expect that. Who I considered kind of peers just because their volume is kind of
Right,
similar
right.
and their independence was similar, and but they keep their they sold they sold and somebody else sold.
Yeah.
It was always kind of a,
It's hard. It's
but
hard.
I get it because you know, maybe there have been situations where you don't get along with your partner and where selling is your only alternative. That can happen.
Yeah.
So it's you know, it has nothing to do with their faith and their creativity. Maybe it was just circumstances that
Mm,
pushed them and they backed them into a corner, and that can happen.
yeah.
So
How about your collaborations? I mean, I I think that when you obviously have partners that are on the same wavelength and love the creative spirit and make money, obviously we agree that money gives you that freedom, so we
yeah.
appreciate both. But have there been collaborations you've done that you feel really sort of took you to a new place just because it's a collaboration that's different maybe from
Well, I liked
yeah.
Aesop. I like we
Oh,
did
really?
we did
Really?
we did candles, and we did some like a travel kit with Aesop, but it was the candles are really beautiful and really nice. I liked that. I liked the gentleness of their ethos, and I think a lot of people sometimes when they get first sight of me, it can be a little bit full on, and they think that I'm like this violent techno dark guy, and they can't. But then I keep telling them, if you go in the stores, there was all this gray cashmere that, like any of
Right.
and like soft t-shirts.
Soft and cuddly, right?
There's a gentle side that really promotes soft gentleness. But anyway, it was nice to be able to do something with somebody that had that kind of ethos. So I like
Yeah.
doing Birkenstocks
Uh,
because um, that was an aesthetic attitude that I liked connecting to.
mhm.
And it was about it was promoting health. I mean, um, health and quality is such an integral part of what they're doing. So I
Mm.
like that. Um, and but they're all kind of at the beginning when I first started doing them. I mean, I didn't do them for a long time just because I thought they were just hype machines.
Mm.
They're just insincere grabs for cash. Um, and but um, it was kind of great to get out of my personal little isolated reclusive zone and kind of engage with other people in the industry and see how other people do things. And
Mm.
so, and also connect with a different audience and be able to do interviews about talking about being able to provide an alternative to aesthetics that can be a little too narrow in our culture. So being able to promote my agenda, um, that that's a plus. That's a good
Yeah.
thing. And being able to promote my agenda to an audience that maybe wasn't that familiar with me,
Yeah.
that's a nice thing.
What, and you say you're reclusive. Are you really reclusive?
I am because I don't. I didn't. I never. Do you see me in New York? I'm never. I don't really.
No, because I'm reclusive.
Yeah. Well, there you see. Uh, but I talk a lot, so I'm not. I'm reclusive, but I just don't go out of the house. But
Right.
I'm very chatty.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, I think it's a safe place too. Sometimes taking that time, but then having friends that you can communicate with or meeting new people that are interesting. You've been married for quite some time too, haven't you?
yeah, we've been together about 30 years.
Amazing, amazing.
And
And you,
she's turning 80 this year too.
I love it. Do you know, you have to tell her that, and I hope it's not an insult to her, but so many people through the years tell me how much she and I are similar in the way we look, in something about us. And I hear it from different people and I think, really? I like, why are people saying this? And I'm not
Because you
sure.
have a square face. You're both beautiful and you have a kind of a square jawline. Because I saw it too. I
Oh,
do.
you really? That is
I
so fun.
do.
And I'm dying to meet her because I thought that I have to see what her energy is. First of all, I think the two of you together are magic. I love it. And you can tell there's such a creative energy that you both have. And it's talk about, finding your soulmate. That's really beautiful.
And it's
That is.
hilarious because we're so the opposite. I'm so linear and so organized, and she is so vaporous
But
and
that's it. But that's it. No, but
yeah.
that's it has to
Oh
be
yeah,
that
it
way.
is.
I
Yeah.
I thought forever that I was just other people would have soulmates, not me. And then when I turned 65, Ian Schrager introduced me to this guy who just turned 82, and he's the coolest thing. And so we've been together, and we're actually going to get married, I believe, on your birthday. I looked at your birthday. Yeah. So I look at the two of you and I thought, I think they've been married a really long time. And I wasn't sure how similar you are, but we're the same. I'm very organized, neat, structured, lists, and he's creative and amazing, brilliant, genius, but we could not be more different. But that's the magic, I guess. And how did you know that this was going to be your soulmate, your life mate?
Well, I think it was aesthetics. I think we both had, she is she's like this primitive, instinctive, impulsive animal, um, with the most elegant style. She's barbaric. She's kind of like this barbaric elegance that is
Love
just
that.
a cup of
Yeah.
tea. I mean, so um, those yeah, the aesthetic thing I think is what has proved the biggest adhesive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's really interesting. I didn't understand, or really, I knew that you guys were together, and I thought, oh, it's got to be about the creative thing, how that you stay together for a long period of time. There's always some glue. There's the thing that keeps people together. And then a while ago, I was on Instagram and I saw the two of you doing, I think it was in your studio, or I didn't understand totally what it was, but she was trying on different outfits with you, and I loved it. I thought, I love this. They are so cool. That is so, the energy is so right. It's fun, and it's out there, and it's just the way it should be. It's so sweet at the same time. So that was my okay, that's a soulmate.
I think it was that was probably during COVID because we did a couple of things like that. I did, that was how I presented my collections uh,
Ah,
the first season, the first time, because we weren't doing public runway shows. And so I presented the pre-collection or something like that. But also, I think there was like British Vogue or something asked us like for her to do some looks. And so I dressed her,
all
and
right. Yes, that's what it was.
it was a fun thing to do. And but that was actually, that was kind of a funny trick when I first started making clothes, because she doesn't like being, she's hard, you can't manage her. She doesn't like, uh, and she really reacts to being any kind of management. So I kind of had to trick her, and it was, so I would make new things, I'd make clothes, and I'd leave them around in my studio. And I knew she'd snoop around. So, and then whatever she responded to, whatever she gravitated to
I
and
love it.
kind of snuck off with, I knew that that was something worth developing.
That is so funny. That's really, I mean, I have
So
to say,
she was kind of my truffle pig.
I have the same relationship. There's no management whatsoever. I always have to be thinking out of the box to kind of control the movement and but that's, that's for people like us where we're structured. If we don't have some of that chaos going on, it can't be good, right? We need to have a little disorder to create order. So, do you make your bed?
Do I make my bed? No.
Never. Does somebody make your bed for you
Yeah,
every day?
yeah. But
Really?
if I'm alone, kind of rarely, I'll make my bed. Yeah. I like I like getting into a
Into
made
it.
bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think there's part of the longevity thing is sleep, and a lot of conversation about sleep, and making the bed is really a key to the thing you do in the morning. Now, I don't make my bed every day too, because somebody else is making my bed, but when nobody else is making my bed, I'm making my bed. I
Yeah.
need to get into that. And that is also, I think, a personality trait of someone that sees a new beginning as important. It's a subliminal kind of
Well,
concept, but
I
right?
take a nap every day.
Do you
And
really?
that's great. And then I take a nap every single day, and I get grumpy if I don't get my nap. And
Really?
it's very much about getting oversaturated at midday, um, and having to empty it out, having to take a nap to empty out, and then waking up to a whole new day. Um,
Wow.
and I realize it is probably some kind of like meditation,
Yeah.
and and the way I developed it because when I moved to Europe to start manufacturing industrially in Europe, I had to react to so many different new calendars and schedules and people and
Mm.
conversations and meetings. And this was my way to I had to escape. I had to like retreat every once in a while.
Wow.
And so I started that, and it just stuck, and it became sometimes I think, am I a little too dependent on this? And then I think, who cares?
Yeah.
You
And
know,
how long do you nap for?
like an hour to an hour and a half. And um, I also realized that I have limited energy, and I can oversaturate. So this is the best use of my energy. I am uh, pacing the energy that I have for the day. I am pacing it and I'm protecting it. And my life is no longer about endurance.
Mhm.
It's about you making the best decisions
Yeah.
possible. And I have to protect that.
And
So,
restoring and restoring. Yeah.
yeah,
Your body, you're listening obviously to your body, and that's
and
exactly what to
fun.
do.
I want to have fun.
Yeah.
So this is supposed to be about fun. So I want to be relaxed and rested. I don't need to stress myself out.
Yeah.
I don't need to, and I'm not, I'm not going to do anybody any good if I'm stressed out. So,
Is it
um,
the same time every day? Is your body like on a clock? Yeah. And but there's a lot of information that you could easily get. I don't know if you know about the aura rings, and where you can measure the kind of REM sleep and deep sleep you have. Even in an hour, you can have as much REM sleep and deep sleep as people have in an entire night. And you should probably, for fun, get one of the aura rings to check and see how deep. I bet that hour you have is very intense, because it it's it's functioning for you. You're seeing something happen as a result of that hour. I bet if you looked at the data, it's probably very deep, and the REM is probably almost the hour. It's interesting, and when you read about the REM sleep, and deep sleep, it's restore body, restore mind. And when you sleep, do you dream?
sometimes, I didn't know about aura rings. I'm
I'll
gonna.
send you I'll send you information about it. You'll love it, especially if that you have this hour measuring it. I would be curious to see what that measurement is. So when you sleep, so I in this longevity kind of world that I'm very interested in, I've been talking to and interviewing brain doctors for my podcast, by the way. You have to listen. They're really good. And so I'm doing all of this testing. My guy and I, Marty and I, are both like, I'm 78, he's 82, so they're testing us. They're testing our brains and testing to see what's going on. And in part of the testing in the quiz, they say they want to know if you dream when you sleep and what do you dream about. So I said, yes, I dream, not all the time, but I do dream. And there are times where I remember the dream and I sort of feel a little guilty because for my entire life, I dream about clothes or things, and they're such good ideas that I do them. And they said to me, you are not the only creative person that's ever said that. That's a very common thing that creative people say. Have you had that experience?
I have. I've had experiences where I wake up and I think that was such a complex, sophisticated scenario that I just dreamed. Like, I don't know if I could come up with that conscious. And I don't know if it was about a story, like an elaborate story, or like or something that I said. But I do. I there's something about like the freshness of getting up. I guess that just kind of lets good ideas kind of pop into
Yeah,
your head.
yeah,
So I do always kind of assume that when I wake up, I'll have like something will be kind of solved.
yes,
They'll
yes,
be able to resolve things.
yeah,
So I really do use it technically as a tool
yeah,
to do my job.
yeah, me too. And I'm jealous that you do this hour and I think, that sounds like a really good idea. It sounds like a prescription for an intense life, right? To really give yourself
And it's like one of the most extravagant, glamorous
totally.
indulgences that almost, I mean, how many people can do that? I mean, it's not, it really is an indulgence. It really is.
But
Um,
working out for an hour is not
yeah.
considered an indulgence anymore. But sleeping, which is the most restorative healing thing you can do, isn't that interesting?
You know,
That's
what's funny about it too, like there's like a little element of shame attached to it.
yeah.
Like my assistant will like say like, oh, so and so wanted to have a meeting with you, but it's starting.
No, it's when you said you were doing that hour, and I thought, how is he doing that? And then I thought, well, you work out for an hour. You do if it's a physical exercise or something you're doing, it's like, oh, how cool is that? But the ultimate restorative, healing, longevity thing you can do is weight training and sleeping. How's that? You
Well,
didn't know?
anyway, self-medicating
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
instincts.
Anyway, I hope we can meet in person someday soon. And
Well,
send
you're gonna have to come to Paris because I rarely go to New York.
really? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, next trip to
How
Paris.
often do you go to Paris?
Not that often. I've been going to, believe it or not, I've been going to Abu Dhabi a lot. Have you gone to Abu Dhabi at all?
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
there's a lot of very, very exciting things going on there. And the Marty, the person I'm with, is very involved in a lot of projects there. And and it's a new country with resources to look at tomorrow and to look at what the future can be. And it's just fascinating. So I've been going there with him, and I'm interested in AI. What are your thoughts about AI?
Well, it's evolution, and I love something ominous and threatening, and that means something good. So
Right, that's true. That's right up your alley. It's fascinating, and I think, you know, uh, for us, for an industry that has to do with emotion and feelings, um, AI certainly will be an adventure for us, but emotions and feelings really are human, and that aspect of what we do, or any art form really, is sort of in its own world, its own kind of bubble, and AI can go around it, but it doesn't feel. And we work with feeling, right? We work with emotions. Everything you do, right, every day is how you feel, the energy. And that's why you take a nap, because it's draining. I mean, if you do a collection and you do fittings, I need a nap. I need a nap after I I am so drained. I'm high, I'm upset, I'm excited, and then like, oh, you know, I would love to kind of crawl in a little ball and take a little nap and go back at it. But we're we're in that feeling world. But AI is fascinating. It's scary and eerie, and I love that too. Exciting. Well,
um,
I don't want to take any more of your time. I love conversation with you. I enjoyed this so much.
well,
Thank
it
you.
was a pleasure, and it's fun. I've admired you for so long, and I'm going to admire you for a long time. And thank you. It was a
Uh,
pleasure.
it was so great. Thank you so much.
Looking forward to meeting you in
Yeah,
person.
you too.
It's
It was so fabulous. Thank you.
fun.
Bye bye.
Hey, press follow and leave a comment after you listen to the podcast. Thanks.